Okay, Ashley, here is your array of work and first your assignment too, which does look pretty good. This is an exceedingly subtle example because your horizontal and vertical bars are so similar in color. Um, I take it you like mauves because we see that also in what I believe is your depth piece. I think I had to look twice at these assignments uh, for number 3. I wasn't sure which one was meant to be transparency, but I think this top right one is. And it is an interesting sort of cyberspace that you've been able to create through use of transparency. I think you've got some good ideas cooking there. Very experimental. Now, down to depth. Now, this file is fairly similar to Kayla's. However, one thing I think you've put the colors that are very desaturated toward the rear. And that was a good idea. They may be lighter than some of the ones in the front, but the desaturation business is causing them to fall to the rear. Also, the color you've chosen for the backdrop is similar to those colors that are toward the rear, and that's helping things. When we see a lot of contrast, things tend to pop forward. Now, let's take a look at your vibration piece. This is probably the least strong, not because it's not a good design, but because we don't have a strong sense of vibration. Now, let's see. In truth, you have a warm and a cool color because on the digital color wheel, violet is a warm color. However, let's see if these are saturated. I'm just pulling out the color picker here. And well, we've got a saturated blue and violet. Some of the colors are not. The thing is, some of them are close to being fully saturated and others less so. So I think here the effect would have been stronger if we had, number one, colors that were fully saturated. Number two, a warm and a cool, and finally colors of similar value, which you do have to an extent. If you take the color picker to this assignment sample, the one in the assignment itself, you'll see that every stripe is fully saturated. Well, this is pretty good work, Ashley. Hey Harold, I'm taking a look at your work here, and first your assignment 2. I went and pulled up the version 1 of this file, which I had here on my computer, and I think I favor that in terms of what we were trying to achieve, right? So we wanted to have the vertical stripe up here as though it was over, then an ambiguous area with an even mix of both colors, and then on the other side, the horizontal over, and I'm not seeing a clear depiction of the horizontal stripe over in this case. I did mention in drafts that there is something funny going on with the color mix. It winds up looking a little chalky, but I think that's just the way the light colors are mixing, a little different than what we'd expect based on our knowledge of paint mixing. That orange you have, it's actually a tint of orange, so there is some whitishness in it. Now, for your transparency piece, this is a very intricate work, and it seems as though the spacing may have been improved a little bit. I noticed there's just more room at the bottom of the file than there is at the top, and I would say just crop that if you're able to go in and neaten things up a little. That might be good for your portfolio, but it might just be the business of cropping a little off the bottom edge. Now, on to depth. This is pretty amazing, and I think your experimentation is not unlike what we just saw in I think it was Ashley's work, but in that case it was her transparency piece. You're giving us this convoluted space, and in this case there's even an Escher-like quality. It's odd that there should be that backlighting that sort of cancels the space a little bit, but it just makes it seem as though we're looking at some sort of spaceship innards or something like that. The shape in the very center, well, some people presented something like that only for this entire part. That in itself, for some people, was as much as what they got to. Let's see. I think that the center of it seems like it's coming forward and the edges seem to pull back. That all is very good, but I want to budge it a little to the left. I feel as though this file could use a little straightening up, maybe a couple of guides to help you organize things and spiff things up. Now, vibration. You know, that's a really nice piece, and you had a curious event occurring in a draft of this where there was some sort of shape just flying in, and this is a little more in keeping with the assignment with rectangles. Really a fun piece, Harold. Okay, taking a look at Jen's work here, and first her assignment 2, which is pretty good. Really not too much to say about this one. Maybe there could be just a tiny bit more influence of the yellow in the left area of overlap. That red vertical is looking pretty darn opaque there, but I think on the whole this is a good piece for that assignment. Now, on to part, or I should say, assignment 3 and the transparency part. Well, I'm not so wowed by this. Whoa, maybe there's a character in there. I see a couple of eyes and maybe a belly button. I'm not sure. It seems as though there's an order here. Maybe guides were used, but the colors sure are random. Yeah. Well, the more I look at this, the more symmetrical and planned it seems. So I'll applaud you on that. However, I'm more interested in the color schemes that we see in depth and then vibration. You know, I looked at the depth draft and I was trying to give you some indication of where you could go if you wanted to take it further. And well, you didn't go in that direction. You did make each of these pyramids or voids a little more intricate with more steps. And this is just beautiful. It's mesmerizing. And likewise, I enjoy your vibration piece, which does in fact seem to be made from all rectangles. And it bears some resemblance to Harold's design too, I note. Okay, here's Trish's work, and first her assignment 2, which looks okay. So on left we've got green going over red. Now, what I think you've got on the right, that area of overlap on the right, looks like a good ambiguous area. So I'd shift that to center. And then on right, maybe make an instance of red appearing to clearly be over green. I think that center area as it exists now just doesn't quite seem right. And you may have built this in Photoshop, I realize, but please try to adjust for what the eye sees. Here the colors are not expected or what we imagine seeing. Transparency looks okay. And I think in this depth piece, things are just a little understated. It might have to do with your color choice. Green is a color where it's hard to differentiate between colors that are similar often. And then we have vibration, which is actually a pretty cool piece. I can see you were putting some ideas I was sharing about creating a weaving effect to use here. You do have quite a few colors. Vibration can happen with just a couple of colors. It's important that the colors be saturated. And I'm pulling out the color picker here, and they test to be fully saturated. Nice work, okay, Trisha. Rihanna, I'm taking a look here at your work. I couldn't find your assignment 3 yet, so I'm just basing this critique on your assignment 2, which actually is a very nice example. Good work here. And I'll be looking for the other work. Please post as soon as possible, and if you have a doctor's note, send me an email with a scan attached. Thanks.